My name is Sarah. I'm 28, and last Thanksgiving my parents uninvited me from dinner because I allegedly embarrassed my golden child sister Emma. What they didn't know was that her perfect boyfriend had been secretly texting me for months, begging to meet up. When I finally showed up anyway to retrieve my grandmother's ring, Emma's boyfriend took one look at me across the crowded dining room and whispered my name like he'd seen a ghost. That's when our entire family's carefully constructed lies began crumbling down around us. Before we dive into this family revenge drama that changed everything, drop a comment letting me know where you're watching from. Hit that like button if you've ever been the family scapegoat, and don't forget to subscribe. Because this story has twists that'll make your Thanksgiving drama look like a peaceful picnic. Trust me, you won't want to miss what happens when the truth finally comes out. To understand how everything fell apart, you need to know about my family dynamic. I'm the oldest daughter, and Emma is 3 years younger. The baby who could do no wrong. Growing up in suburban Michigan, our parents Linda and Robert Chen always made it crystal clear that Emma was their precious princess while I was just there. Emma got piano lessons while I got hand-me-downs. Emma got college tuition paid in full, while I worked 3 jobs and took out loans. Emma got praise for C's, while my A's barely earned a nod. For 28 years, I accepted this role. I was the responsible one, the one who helped with homework, who picked Emma up from parties when she was too drunk to drive, who covered for her when she skipped school. I thought that's just how families worked. Someone had to be the caretaker, and someone got to be cared for. The pattern continued into adulthood. When Emma dropped out of college to find herself through a series of failed artistic endeavors, Mom and Dad funded her lifestyle. When I graduated with honors from nursing school and bought my own small apartment, they asked why I didn't choose somewhere nicer. Emma's Instagram-worthy life was constantly celebrated at family dinners, while my 12-hour shifts saving lives were met with comments about how I looked tired. Everything changed 6 months before that fateful Thanksgiving, when Emma announced she was dating Marcus Reynolds. Marcus was everything our parents dreamed of for their precious daughter. A successful investment banker, devastatingly handsome from a wealthy family. The way Mom's eyes lit up when Emma brought him around was something I'd never seen directed at anyone I'd ever dated. Dad actually put down his newspaper to shake Marcus's hand. But here's where it gets interesting. 3 weeks after Emma introduced Marcus to the family, I started getting text messages from an unknown number. The first one was innocent enough. "Hey, this might sound weird, but I think we met at your sister's birthday party. I'm Marcus, Emma's boyfriend. Could I get your opinion on something?" I should have told Emma immediately. I should have shown her the text. Instead, something made me respond. Maybe it was years of being invisible in my own family, or maybe I was just curious about what Emma's perfect boyfriend could possibly want from me. I texted back, asking what he needed help with. What started as innocent questions about gift ideas for Emma quickly became something else entirely. Marcus would text me late at night asking about my work, my thoughts on books, movies, life. He was charming, intelligent, and for the first time in my life, someone was genuinely interested in what I had to say. Not my medical expertise to help a sick family member. Not my babysitting skills. Not my ability to clean up messes. But me as a person. I convinced myself it was harmless. We were just talking. Marcus loved Emma, and I was just being a good sister by helping him understand her better. But deep down, I knew I was lying to myself. Every notification made my heart race. Every late-night conversation made me feel alive in a way I hadn't experienced before. I was falling for my sister's boyfriend, and worse, I was beginning to suspect he might be falling for me too. The conversations became more personal. Marcus told me about his demanding job, his family's expectations, his dreams of traveling the world. I found myself sharing things I'd never told anyone. My fears about always being the overlooked daughter. My struggles with feeling like I didn't matter in my own family. My dreams of maybe moving somewhere far away and starting fresh. "You're nothing like how Emma describes you," Marcus texted one night. "She makes you sound so serious and boring. But you're funny and deep, and you actually think about things." I find myself looking forward to our conversations more than anything else in my day. I should have stopped it there. I should have blocked his number and confessed everything to Emma. Instead, I typed back, "How does Emma describe me?" The answer broke my heart and confirmed every insecurity I'd ever had about my place in the family. She says you're jealous of her, that you've always resented her success, that you're bitter about being single while she's happy. She says you try to make her feel bad about our relationship because you can't find anyone yourself. Reading those words felt like a knife to the chest. After years of protecting Emma, of celebrating her wins and cushioning her failures, this is how she saw me. As a jealous, bitter older sister who couldn't stand her happiness. That night, I made my first real mistake. I sent Marcus a photo. Nothing inappropriate. Just a picture of me at the beach during a weekend getaway, smiling genuinely for the first time in months. "Does this look bitter and jealous to you?" I typed immediately, regretting it but not taking it back. His response came quickly, "You look beautiful. Emma doesn't know what she's talking about." From that point on, our conversations took on a different energy. Marcus started complimenting me, telling me how much he enjoyed talking to someone who got it, how refreshing it was to have real conversations. He began comparing me favorably to Emma, pointing out how I was more mature, more thoughtful, more interesting. I knew it was wrong. I knew I was betraying my sister. But for the first time in my life, I felt seen. I felt valued. Someone preferred me over Emma, and that intoxicating feeling was impossible to resist. The final line was crossed 2 weeks before Thanksgiving, when Marcus asked if we could meet in person. "Just for coffee," he said. "I feel like we have this connection, and I'd love to actually talk face to face. Emma will never know." I stared at that text for hours before responding. Meeting him would make everything real. It would cross a boundary I couldn't uncross. But sitting in my empty apartment, thinking about another family dinner where I'd be ignored while Emma and Marcus got all the attention, I typed back when and where we never ended up meeting. The Thanksgiving incident happened first. And it changed everything in ways I never could have predicted. The embarrassment that got me uninvited from Thanksgiving was so ridiculous that even now I can barely believe my parents took Emma's side. It all started at Emma's birthday party 3 weeks before the holiday. Mom had insisted on throwing her a lavish celebration at their house, complete with catered food, professional decorations, and a guest list that read like a who's who of our social circle. I showed up after a brutal 12-hour shift at the hospital, still wearing my scrubs because I barely had time to go home and change. I brought Emma a thoughtful gift, a vintage camera she'd mentioned wanting months earlier that I'd spent weeks tracking down on eBay. When I handed it to her in front of everyone instead of the gratitude I expected, Emma's face scrunched up in confusion. "Oh," she said, loud enough for nearby guests to hear. "I already bought this exact camera last month. I guess you forgot I posted about it on Instagram." She laughed in that way that wasn't really a laugh. "But thanks for trying." I felt my cheeks burn as several people turned to look. I had been working so many double shifts lately that I'd missed her Instagram post. "I'm sorry," I said quietly. "I can return it and get you something else." "Don't worry about it," Emma said dismissively, already turning away to greet other guests. "I'm sure you can find someone who wants it." That should have been the end of it, but Emma's friend Jessica decided to pile on. "Oh my God, Sarah, you look exhausted. Have you been sleeping? You should really try some concealer for those dark circles." Before I could respond, Marcus appeared beside us. I hadn't seen him approach, and his sudden presence made my heart skip. For weeks we'd been texting constantly, and seeing him in person felt surreal and dangerous. "Actually," Marcus said, looking directly at me with those dark eyes I'd seen in countless photos Emma had shown me, "I think Sarah looks great. She's been saving lives all day while we've been here, eating appetizers and gossiping. That's pretty admirable." The compliment hit me like a thunderbolt. In front of my sister and her friends, Emma's boyfriend was defending me. I felt my face flush for entirely different reasons now. Emma's smile faltered slightly. "Marcus, you don't need to. I'm serious," he continued, and I could feel the intensity of his gaze, even though I was looking at my feet. "Not everyone can handle what Sarah does for work. The fact that she came straight here after a 12-hour shift says a lot about her character." Jessica laughed awkwardly. "Wow, Marcus, you're like Sarah's personal cheerleader tonight." That's when I made my mistake. Looking up at Marcus with genuine gratitude, I said, "Thank you. It's nice to have someone notice." The words came out more intimate than I intended. There was something in my voice, a softness, that definitely crossed the line from appropriate sister-in-law territory into something else. Emma caught it immediately. "Notice what?" Emma asked, her voice sharp now. "Notice that you're tired. We all noticed, trust me." Marcus looked uncomfortable, realizing he'd stumbled into family tension. "I just meant I know what you meant, Emma," cut him off, her eyes narrowing as she looked between Marcus and me. "Sarah's always been good at playing the martyr. Poor Sarah, working so hard. Poor Sarah, always so overlooked. It gets old." The entire group went silent. I felt like I'd been slapped. Here I was defending my presence at her party after working to save someone's life, and she was making me out to be some attention-seeking drama queen. "Emma," I said quietly, "I wasn't trying to, weren't you?" she snapped. "You show up late, looking like you just rolled out of bed, give me a gift I already have, and then stand here soaking up sympathy from my boyfriend about how hard your life is. It's embarrassing, Sarah. You're embarrassing me at my own party." I looked around at the faces staring at us. Some uncomfortable, some clearly enjoying the drama. Marcus looked mortified, probably regretting saying anything at all. Mom appeared at Emma's shoulder like a protective shield. "What's going on here?" Mom asked, but her tone suggested she'd already chosen a side. "Sarah's having one of her moments," Emma said dismissively. "Making everything about herself again." That's when I snapped. Years of biting my tongue. Years of being the bigger person. Years of watching Emma get away with everything while I got blamed for breathing wrong. It all came bubbling up. "My moment," I said, my voice rising. "I literally just thanked someone for acknowledging that I work hard. Since when is that making everything about myself? Since you decided to flirt with my boyfriend to get attention," Emma shot back. The accusation hung in the air like a bomb. Several people gasped. Marcus stepped forward quickly. "Emma, that's not what he started," but she whirled on him. "Don't you dare defend her again," she hissed. "I saw the way you looked at her. I heard how you talked to her. You were more interested in my sister tonight than you've been in me all week." I felt the room spinning. This was exactly what I'd been afraid of. That someone would notice the connection between Marcus and me. But Emma was making it sound like I'd been throwing myself at him, when all I'd done was accept a compliment. "I wasn't flirting with anyone," I said firmly. "I said thank you." "That's not flirting." "Please," Emma scoffed. "The way you looked at him, the way you said, 'It's nice to have someone notice,' you might as well have batted your eyelashes." Mom put her arm around Emma's shoulders protectively. "Sarah, I think you should go home. You're clearly overtired and not thinking straight." "I'm not the one who's not thinking straight," I said, looking directly at Emma. "You're so insecure that you can't handle someone giving me a basic compliment without turning it into some imaginary threat to your relationship." Emma's face went white with rage. "Get out," she said quietly. "Get out of my party right now." I looked around the room one more time. At Emma's tears. At Mom's disappointed face. At Dad, shaking his head in the background. At Marcus looking like he wanted to disappear into the floor. And I left. The next morning I woke up to a text from Mom. "Your father and I have decided it would be best if you don't come to Thanksgiving this year. Emma is very upset and we think some space would be good for everyone." Just like that, I was uninvited from my own family's holiday because I'd accepted a compliment and stood up for myself. Being uninvited from Thanksgiving felt like the final confirmation that I'd never really belonged in my family anyway. I spent the first few days after Emma's party alternating between rage and heartbreak, replaying every moment and wondering if I really had done something wrong. Maybe Emma was right. Maybe I had been flirting with Marcus without realizing it. Maybe my years of resentment had finally shown through in ways I couldn't see. But then I got angry. Really angry. Here I was questioning myself and my actions while Emma got to play the victim, and our parents enabled her as always. I'd spent my entire life walking on eggshells around her feelings, and for what? So she could publicly humiliate me and get me banned from family holidays. The more I thought about it, the more something didn't add up. Emma's reaction had been so extreme, so immediate. It was like she'd been waiting for an excuse to attack me. And her accusation about me flirting with Marcus had come out of nowhere. Unless it wasn't out of nowhere at all. That's when I started paying attention to things I'd previously ignored. Like how Emma never let Marcus use his phone when she was around. How she always wanted to know where he was and who he was with. How she'd make little comments about other women being desperate or pathetic for trying to get male attention. I'd always written it off as Emma being Emma, but maybe it was something more. 3 days after being uninvited, I decided to do some digging. I know it sounds terrible, but I created a fake Instagram account and started looking through Emma's posts more carefully. What I found made my blood boil. Emma had been posting about me for months. Not tagging me, but clearly talking about me. Posts about jealous older siblings who can't handle other people's happiness. Stories about bitter family members who try to steal attention at every gathering. Photos from family dinners with captions like, "So grateful for the family members who actually support my relationship," posted on days when I'd been working and couldn't attend. She was building a narrative about me being jealous and problematic long before the birthday party incident. She'd been setting me up to be the villain in her story, and I'd been completely oblivious. But the real bombshell came when I found a post from 2 months earlier that made my heart stop. It was a photo of Marcus sleeping with the caption, "When your boyfriend talks in his sleep," and says another girl's name. Guess I know what I'm dealing with. Number loyalty test, number relationships, number family drama. The comments were full of Emma's friends telling her to dump him and asking whose name he'd said. Emma had responded to several with crying emojis and comments about how some people just can't stay in their lane and blood should be thicker than water. Marcus had been saying my name in his sleep. Emma knew about our connection before the birthday party. She'd known for months. I screenshotted everything, my hands shaking as I realized the full scope of what had been happening. Emma hadn't exploded at me randomly that night. She'd been planning to take me down, and Marcus's public compliment had given her the perfect opportunity. But I needed more proof. I needed to understand exactly how much Emma knew and what she was planning to do about it. That's when I decided to take a risk that could have backfired spectacularly. I texted Marcus from my real number for the first time in weeks. "We need to talk. Emma knows something. Can you call me?" My phone rang within 5 minutes. "Sarah, thank God." Marcus's voice was strained, exhausted. "I've been going crazy since the party. Emma's been. I don't even know how to describe it. She's been watching me like a hawk, going through my phone, asking me questions about you constantly." What kind of questions, I asked, though I was pretty sure I already knew. "Everything. How long we've been talking, what we talk about, if I have feelings for you." She found some old texts in my phone. I thought I'd deleted them all, but she went back months in my message history. His voice cracked slightly. "Sarah, she knows everything." My stomach dropped. "Everything, every conversation we've had. She read them all while I was sleeping last week. She's been planning this confrontation for days, maybe weeks. The birthday party thing wasn't spontaneous. She was waiting for any excuse to go nuclear on you." I closed my eyes, feeling the full weight of the manipulation settle over me. She's been posting about me on social media for months, building a case that I'm jealous, and trying to sabotage her relationship. She's been setting this up. Jesus, Marcus breathed. "I'm so sorry, Sarah. This is all my fault. I should never have started texting you. I should have been stronger." "It's not just your fault," I said, though hearing him say it out loud made the guilt crash over me again. I could have stopped it too. I could have told her from the beginning. "But you didn't pursue me," Marcus said quietly. "I pursued you. I was the one who kept pushing for more, who kept asking personal questions, who made you feel like maybe there was something between us worth exploring." There was a long pause. I could hear Emma's voice in the background asking who he was talking to. "I have to go," Marcus said quickly. "But Sarah, there's something else you need to know. Emma's planning something for Thanksgiving. I don't know what exactly, but she's been talking to your parents about finally addressing the Sarah situation once and for all. She wants to make sure you're permanently cut off from the family." The line went dead, leaving me staring at my phone in shock. Emma wasn't just angry about the birthday party. She was using everything she'd discovered about Marcus and me to destroy my relationship with our parents permanently. She was going to paint me as the sister who tried to steal her boyfriend, the jealous older sibling who couldn't handle her success, the toxic family member who needed to be removed. And the worst part, a lot of it was true. I had developed feelings for Marcus. I had enjoyed our conversations more than I should have. I had crossed emotional boundaries that I knew were wrong. Emma had ammunition against me because I'd given her ammunition. But that didn't make her manipulation right. It didn't justify the months of social media posts or the carefully orchestrated public humiliation. It didn't excuse turning my own parents against me or planning to cut me off from the family permanently. That night, I made a decision that would change everything. If Emma wanted to play games, I could play games too. But I wasn't going to fight fair anymore. I was done being the bigger person, done protecting everyone else's feelings, while mine got trampled. I was going to Thanksgiving dinner whether I was invited or not. And I was going to bring evidence of exactly what kind of person my perfect little sister really was. It was time for the truth to come out, no matter how messy things got. Emma had started this war, but I was going to finish it. The week leading up to Thanksgiving, I transformed from heartbroken sister into strategic mastermind. If Emma wanted to destroy me, she'd picked the wrong target. 28 years of being overlooked had taught me to be observant, to notice details others miss, to keep secrets. Now I was going to use those skills against the golden child herself. First, I gathered evidence. To understand how everything fell apart, you need to know about my family dynamic. I'm the oldest daughter, and Emma is 3 years younger. The baby who could do no wrong. Growing up in suburban Michigan, our parents Linda and Robert Chen always made it crystal clear that Emma was their precious princess while I was just there. Emma got piano lessons while I got hand-me-downs. Emma got college tuition paid in full while I worked 3 jobs and took out loans. During her artistic phase in college, Emma had been selling essays and test answers to other students for cash. She'd made thousands of dollars running an academic fraud ring. And when one of her customers got caught, Emma had let the girl take the fall alone rather than admit her involvement. The girl had been expelled while Emma quietly transferred schools and reinvented herself as the victim of jealous classmates who tried to frame her. I'd discovered the truth when Emma drunkenly confessed everything during a family barbecue, sobbing about how guilty she felt, but making me promise never to tell anyone. It would destroy Mom and Dad, she'd said. They think I'm perfect. Promise me, Sarah. Promise you'll never tell. Like an idiot, I'd promised. I'd protected Emma's secret for years, watching our parents praise her resilience in overcoming the false accusations that had forced her to transfer schools. Emma had even written her college application essays about being wrongfully accused and learning to overcome adversity. But my promise to protect Emma was null and void the moment she decided to destroy me. If she wanted to play dirty, I had ammunition that would level the playing field. The second part of my plan involved Marcus. He was the key to everything. The one person who could corroborate Emma's manipulation and confirm that she'd been planning my downfall for months. But I needed him to be willing to tell the truth even if it meant his relationship with Emma would implode. I texted him Tuesday night, "I'm going to Thanksgiving dinner uninvited. When the truth comes out, will you back me up?" His response came hours later, "Sarah, I can't. If I admit to everything, Emma will destroy me. She has screenshots of our conversations. She'll send them to my work, my family, everyone. She's already threatened to do it if I ever leave her." Reading that text, I realized Emma was more manipulative than I'd ever imagined. She wasn't just controlling. She was blackmailing Marcus to stay in their relationship. The sweet, innocent little sister I'd protected my whole life was actually a calculating sociopath who used emotional terrorism to get what she wanted. "She's blackmailing you," I texted back. "That's not love, Marcus. That's abuse." "I know," he replied. "But what choice do I have? If those texts get out, my career is over. My family is very traditional. They'd never understand. I'm trapped, Sarah." That's when the final piece of my plan clicked into place. Emma's greatest weapon was also her greatest vulnerability. She'd been so focused on using our text conversations as leverage that she'd forgotten one crucial detail. Those conversations would also expose her own behavior. If she tried to destroy Marcus by releasing our texts, she'd be revealing her months of psychological manipulation, her invasion of privacy, her threats, and blackmail. Don't worry about the texts I wrote. I have a plan. Just trust me. Wednesday night, I drove past my parents' house and saw all the cars in the driveway. Emma's Honda, Marcus's BMW, even my aunt and uncle's SUV. The whole family was having a pre-Thanksgiving gathering that I wasn't invited to. Through the living room window, I could see everyone laughing and talking, probably discussing what a toxic person I was and how much better the holiday would be without me. But I also saw something else that made me smile. Emma's laptop was sitting open on the kitchen counter, visible through the window. Emma was notorious for leaving her devices unlocked and unattended. She'd always been careless about digital security because she assumed no one would ever think to check up on perfect little Emma. Thursday morning, I woke up early and put on my best dress, the navy blue one that made me look professional and put together. I did my hair, my makeup, and practiced my speech in the mirror. I looked like someone who had their life together, someone who couldn't possibly be the jealous, unstable sister Emma had painted me as. At 2 o'clock, exactly when I knew the family would be sitting down for dinner, I drove to my childhood home. My hands were shaking as I parked in the driveway behind Marcus's car, but my resolve was stronger than my nerves. I rang the doorbell and waited. Through the frosted glass, I could see movement, hear voices discussing who could possibly be at the door. When Dad opened it, his face went through a series of expressions: confusion, irritation, and finally resignation. "Sarah," he said quietly, "we talked about this. You're not welcome here today." "I know," I said calmly, "but I think you'll want to hear what I have to say before you decide whether to let me in or not." From behind him, I heard Emma's voice sharp with panic. "Dad, close the door. She's not supposed to be here." "Actually," I said, raising my voice so everyone could hear me, "I think the family deserves to know the truth about why I was really uninvited. About the months of planning that went into destroying my reputation. About the blackmail and manipulation happening right under your noses." Dad's expression shifted. "What are you talking about?" "I'm talking about Emma's secret campaign to turn the family against me. I'm talking about her going through Marcus's phone and finding our conversations. I'm talking about the academic fraud she committed in college and the student she let take the blame for her crimes." The silence from inside the house was deafening. I could practically feel Emma's world starting to crumble. "I have evidence," I continued, pulling out my phone. "Screenshots, timeline, everything. The question is whether you want to hear it from me privately, or whether Emma wants to keep pretending to be the victim while I expose her lies in front of the entire family." Dad stepped back, opening the door wider. "Come in," he said quietly. "I think we all need to have a conversation." Walking into that dining room felt like entering a courtroom where I was both the prosecutor and the defendant. The entire family was seated around Mom's perfectly set table. My parents, Emma and Marcus, Aunt Linda and Uncle Bob, even my teenage cousin Jake, who usually spent holidays glued to his phone. Every face turned toward me with expressions ranging from confusion to hostility. Emma sat frozen at the far end of the table, her face pale but her eyes blazing with fury. Marcus looked like he wanted to disappear into his chair. Mom clutched her wine glass like a lifeline. "Sarah," Mom said tersely, "I thought we made it clear that you weren't welcome today." "You made it clear that Emma convinced you I wasn't welcome," I corrected, standing at the head of the table where I could see everyone. "But you made that decision based on lies and manipulation. I'm here to set the record straight." Emma finally found her voice. "You're insane," she said, but there was a tremor in her tone that hadn't been there at her birthday party. "Dad, call the police. She's trespassing." "Nobody's calling anyone," Dad said firmly. "Sarah, you said you have evidence. Let's see it." I pulled out my phone and connected it to the TV, using the cable I'd brought specifically for this moment. The first screenshot filled the screen. Emma's Instagram post from 2 months earlier about Marcus saying another girl's name in his sleep. "This is from Emma's Instagram," I said calmly. "Posted 2 months ago. Notice the date. This was long before the birthday party incident. Emma has known about Marcus's feelings for me for months. Uncle Bob leaned forward, reading the post. Emma, is this real? Emma's mouth opened and closed like a fish. That's taken out of context. I swiped to the next screenshot. The post about jealous older siblings who can't handle other people's happiness. And this one posted 3 weeks ago. And this one from last month about bitter family members who try to steal attention. Emma has been building a narrative about me being jealous and problematic for months, setting me up to be the villain in her story. I could see the realization dawning on my parents' faces. Mom set down her wineglass with shaking hands. The birthday party wasn't a spontaneous explosion, I continued. It was a calculated attack. Emma had been waiting for any excuse to publicly humiliate me and get me cut off from the family. That's not true, Emma said desperately, but her voice was getting higher, more panicked. You're twisting everything. You're making it sound like you're manipulative, I interrupted. Let me show you what manipulation really looks like. I opened my text messages and displayed Marcus's confession about Emma going through his phone while he slept, reading months of our private conversations and threatening to destroy his career if he ever left her. Marcus buried his face in his hands. Emma, please, he whispered. Is this true? Dad asked, looking at Marcus with disappointment. Have you been having inappropriate conversations with Sarah before Marcus could answer? Emma exploded. Of course it's true. She's been trying to steal my boyfriend for months. She's obsessed with me, obsessed with ruining my happiness because she can't stand that I have everything she wants. The room erupted in shocked murmurs, but I remained calm. Actually, Emma, I think you're the one who's obsessed. Obsessed enough to commit felonies to get what you want. Emma went very still. What are you talking about? I'm talking about your little side business in college. The one where you sold essays and test answers to other students. The one where you made thousands of dollars running an academic fraud ring. The one where you let Sarah Mitchell take the fall and get expelled while you transferred schools and played the victim. The silence in the room was absolute. Mom's face had gone white. Dad was staring at Emma like he'd never seen her before. You promised, Emma whispered, all the fight going out of her voice. You promised you'd never tell. I promised to protect you when I thought you were my sister, I said quietly. But sisters don't systematically destroy each other. Sisters don't manipulate their families and blackmail their boyfriends. Sisters don't build elaborate schemes to isolate each other from everyone who matters. Aunt Linda spoke up for the first time. Emma, please tell me this isn't true. Please tell me you didn't let another student get expelled for something you did. Emma burst into tears. But they felt different from her usual manipulative waterworks. These were tears of defeat of someone whose carefully constructed lies had finally crumbled. It wasn't supposed to happen like that, she sobbed. Sarah was already in trouble for other things. I didn't think. I was scared. I thought if I admitted to it, my whole future would be ruined. So you ruined someone else's future instead, Uncle Bob said quietly. Marcus finally spoke up, his voice barely audible. Sarah's telling the truth about everything. Emma's been controlling every aspect of my life for months. She threatened to send our text conversations to my boss, my parents, everyone I know. She said she'd destroy my career if I ever tried to leave her. Because you were emotionally cheating on me with my sister, Emma screamed, finally showing her true colors. You were supposed to love me, but instead, you were falling for her. I had to fight for what was mine. I'm not a possession, Emma Marcus said, standing up from the table. And love isn't something you fight for with blackmail and threats. It's something that exists freely or not at all. Mom was crying now, quiet tears streaming down her face. Emma, how could you do these things? How could you manipulate our whole family like this? I learned from the best, Emma said, bitterly glaring at me. Sarah's been playing the martyr and making me look bad my entire life. I just decided to fight back. That's when I played my final card. Actually, Emma, there's one more thing the family should know. The real reason you've been so determined to destroy me. I pulled up the final screenshot. A conversation from Emma's laptop that I'd photographed through the kitchen window the night before, where she was talking to her friend about her plan to permanently eliminate Sarah from the MS family so she could inherit everything from our grandparents without having to share. The room went dead silent as everyone absorbed the implications of what they were seeing. The aftermath of that Thanksgiving dinner was swift and devastating for Emma. Within hours of my revelations, Marcus had packed his things and moved out of her apartment. Mom called my grandmother that very evening to tell her what had happened, and Grandma Rose, the family matriarch who'd always been skeptical of Emma's perfect act, immediately amended her will to reflect Emma's true character. But the real justice came from an unexpected source. Remember Sarah Mitchell, the girl Emma had let take the fall for the academic fraud ring? It turns out she'd been quietly building her own case against Emma for 3 years, waiting for the right moment to expose the truth. When my cousin Jake, who'd been recording everything on his phone during our family confrontation, posted snippets on TikTok, Sarah Mitchell saw them and finally had the corroborating witness she needed. Within 2 weeks, Emma was facing formal charges for academic fraud, conspiracy, and identity theft. The university reopened Sarah Mitchell's case, and Emma's degrees were revoked. The ripple effects were immediate. Emma lost her social media marketing job when her employer discovered she'd lied about her educational credentials, and several of her former customers came forward with additional evidence of the time's extent of her cheating operation. Marcus, meanwhile, went through his own reckoning. He resigned from his investment firm and moved back to his hometown to start fresh, sending me a long letter apologizing for involving me in his relationship drama and acknowledging the emotional affair we'd had. He was right to take responsibility. We both were guilty of crossing boundaries we shouldn't have crossed, even if Emma's manipulation had created the circumstances that allowed it to happen. But here's where karma really showed up to the party. Emma's systematic destruction of my reputation had been so thorough, so public on her social media, that when the truth came out, the pendulum swung hard in the other direction. Her former friends and followers turned against her with the same ferocity she'd directed at me. The internet can be cruel, and Emma discovered that the same platforms she'd used to destroy me could just as easily destroy her. The family dynamics shifted permanently. Mom and Dad, horrified by what they'd learned about their golden child, entered family therapy and began the long process of acknowledging how their favoritism had enabled Emma's behavior. Dad personally called my hospital supervisor to commend my character, worried that Emma's lies might have affected my professional reputation. Mom started making an effort to actually see me as a person rather than just Emma's responsible older sister. My relationship with my parents isn't perfect. You can't undo 28 years of emotional neglect in a few months. But it's real now. We talk about actual things instead of just pleasantries. They ask about my life because they're genuinely interested, not because they need something from me. For the first time in my life, I feel like I have parents instead of just Emma's support staff. Emma herself disappeared from our lives almost completely. She moved across the country, changed her name, and started over somewhere new. The last I heard, she was working as a barista and still maintaining her innocence, telling anyone who'd listen that she was the victim of a family conspiracy. Some people never learn. The most unexpected outcome was finding my own voice and power. For years I'd defined myself in relation to Emma. The overlooked sister, the responsible one, the caretaker. Destroying her carefully constructed lies forced me to figure out who I actually was when I wasn't living in someone else's shadow. I started therapy, began traveling, even tried online dating for the first time in years. I also learned something important about justice. It's not always swift, and it doesn't always look like what you expect. Sometimes justice is a manipulator getting legally prosecuted for their crimes. Sometimes it's a blackmailer losing their victim. Sometimes it's enabling parents finally opening their eyes to reality. And sometimes justice is just the quiet satisfaction of knowing you didn't let someone destroy you without fighting back. 6 months later, I hosted Thanksgiving at my own apartment for the first time. It was a small gathering. My parents, Aunt Linda and Uncle Bob, a few close friends from work. No drama, no manipulation, no walking on eggshells around anyone's feelings. Just people who actually wanted to be there, sharing a meal and being grateful for authentic relationships. As I looked around my table that night, I realized Emma had accidentally given me the greatest gift possible. By trying to destroy my place in the family, she'd forced me to create a new kind of family. One based on choice rather than obligation. honesty rather than manipulation, genuine love rather than conditional approval. The truth about toxic family members is that they often do you a favor when they show their true colors. Emma spent months planning my destruction, but in the end, she destroyed herself while setting me free. So here's my question for all of you who've made it through this wild journey with me. Have you ever discovered that someone you trusted was systematically working against you? How did you handle it when the mask finally came off? I'd love to hear your stories in the comments below. Sometimes the most healing thing is knowing you're not alone in dealing with toxic family dynamics. If this story resonated with you, please hit that like button and share it with anyone who needs to hear that standing up to manipulative family members is not only okay, it's necessary. Subscribe for more real-life stories about family drama, karma, and the surprising ways justice sometimes prevails. And remember, blood doesn't make family, loyalty does. Choose your people wisely. Thanks for listening to my story, and here's to all of us who've learned that sometimes the most loving thing you can do is refuse to let someone destroy you even if they share your DNA. Life's too short to let toxic people steal your peace no matter what title they hold in your life.